Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, Today in History, the only show where we stare into the swirling cosmic mess of humanity's past and say, ah yes, of course, everything makes perfect sense now. And by makes perfect sense, I mean it explains why every modern geopolitical map looks like someone tried drawing borders while riding a mechanical bull, blindfolded, on espresso. November 29th is one of those history cluster days, a day when humanity wakes up and collectively decides, let's do something important, controversial, violent, groundbreaking, or just plain weird. And history listens, cracks its knuckles, and says, buckle up. So today, we're digging into an anthology of November 29th events that range from the birth of FC Barcelona to the death of Natalie Wood, from Antarctica flyovers to Atari's Pong, from coups to chimpanzees, from massacres to votes that redrew the Middle East. It's a lot. It's like history handed us a sampler platter, but one where half the sampler is covered in blood and the other half is covered in quarters from an arcade machine. So let's jump in. Segment 1, the partition of Palestine, when the UN tried playing cartographer Jenga, 1947. November 29th, 1947. The day the United Nations took a deep breath, cracked open a set of colored pencils and said, okay, everybody, we're going to fix the Middle East. If this were a movie, the audience would be screaming, don't do it, like someone's about to open a cursed book in a horror film. Because the British, exhausted and done babysitting Palestine after years of insurgency, terrorism, blockades, riots, massacres, and broken promises, essentially turned to the UN and said, here, you try. And shocker, the UN said, we've got this, which historically is the diplomatic equivalent of a raccoon saying, trust me, I can fly this plane. UN Resolution 181 proposed splitting the region into two states, Jewish and Arab, with Jerusalem stuck in the middle like the child of a very messy divorce. And to get to this plan, the UN sent a committee, UNSCOP, to investigate. The Arabs boycotted them. The Zionists met them at the airport with snacks, brochures, and PowerPoints. And history was determined right there. Pro tip, in group projects, showing up matters. The vote? A nail biter. 2/3 required. Brutal lobbying, superpower pressure, deals being cut in back rooms harder than a Black Friday sale at Costco. And then, boom, 33 votes yes. The future state of Israel gets its international birth certificate, Palestinians get their national tragedy, and the world gets 75 plus years of diplomatic migraines. And just like that, November 29th becomes one of the most consequential dates of the 20th century. It was geography by committee. And like most committees, no one left happy. Segment 2, the Sand Creek Massacre, America's frontier horror story, 1864. From diplomatic cartography to unhinged cruelty. Welcome to November 29th, 1864, also known as the day the U.S. cavalry said, what if we tried being villains today? And then they committed the Sand Creek Massacre, one of the most brutal betrayals in American history. Colorado Territory was packed with gold-hungry settlers yelling, manifest destiny, like it was a drink special. The Cheyenne and Arapaho promised peace and protection if they camped near Fort Lyon, flew an American flag to prove it. And on November 29th at dawn, Colonel John Chivington, a Methodist preacher turned murder hobbyist, led 675 soldiers straight into the camp. What followed was not a battle. It wasn't even a fight. It was a massacre so horrific that even other soldiers went, whoa, dude. Captain Silas Soule refused to fire. He wrote letters describing soldiers killing children, mutilating bodies, and taking trophies that absolutely no human being should ever collect. Chivington paraded into Denver like a hero. Congress investigated. Everyone condemned it. And Chivington? No consequences. Because America loves accountability. For like 5 minutes, right up until lunchtime. Meanwhile, Silas Soule, the whistleblower, was assassinated months later. Justice not found. Sand Creek is a reminder that American history isn't just cowboys, saloons, and six-shooters. Sometimes it's a horror movie where the monsters wear uniforms. Segment 3, the Zong Massacre, the most evil insurance fraud in history, 1781. You know your civilization is morally bankrupt when a massacre becomes a lawsuit about cargo. Welcome to November 29th, 1781, where aboard the slave ship Zong, the captain decided the enslaved Africans on board were worth more dead than alive, and he tossed them overboard. Not out of necessity, but because he thought the insurance payout would be spectacular. This is the moment where history looks at capitalism and says, hey buddy, maybe take a seat. The captain blamed water shortages, but they were caused by his own navigational incompetence. After overshooting Jamaica, disease broke out, and instead of seeking help, the crew threw 54 women and children overboard on November 29th alone. More killings followed over the next days. Then, cherry on top, they filed an insurance claim for lost cargo. When the insurers refused, the case went to court. And the court didn't ask, did you murder people? No. The question was whether the loss was justifiable jettison. Granville Sharp, the abolitionist, tried to prosecute it as murder. The Solicitor General said, and this is real, blacks are goods and property. This case didn't convict murderers, but it shocked the British public enough to fuel the abolition movement. Because nothing says time to rethink your society like discovering your legal system is out here arguing whether mass killing is deductible. Segment 4, Thailand's silent coup, when democracy got unplugged, 1951. Now let's fly to Thailand, November 29th, 1951, where the military pulled off the political version of a jump scare. No tanks, no firefights, no dramatic storming of buildings, just an announcement on the radio. Imagine waking up, sipping your morning coffee, turning on the radio and hearing, "Good morning, Thailand. Quick update. Democracy has been suspended. Anyway, the weather today looks great." This self-coup was orchestrated by Field Marshal Phi Boon and his pals Sarit Thanarat and Phao Sianan, three men who decided the 1949 Constitution was just too democratic. It limited military power. It gave the king and parliament leverage. It was a buzzkill. So they tossed it like expired yogurt and reinstated the old 1932 Constitution, which gave the military way more control. They didn't even wait for the king to return to Thailand. They did it while he was still at sea. Truly, the political equivalent of changing the locks while someone is on vacation. The U.S. reaction? A diplomatic shrug. It was the Cold War, and America said, military dictatorship? Sure, but are they anti-communist? Great, send them money. This coup set a pattern. Every time politics in Thailand got inconvenient, someone would press reset democracy, like blowing into a Nintendo cartridge. November 29th became the day Thai democracy got ghosted by its own military, silently, politely, and with maximum bureaucratic efficiency. Segment 5, the liberation of Albania, victory, controversy, and a dictatorship starter pack, 1944. Jump cut to the Balkans, November 29th, 1944, where Albania declared itself liberated from German occupation. Crowds cheered, flags waved, German troops retreated, and Enver Hoxha said, excellent, now that the Nazis are gone, let's see how much fun dictatorship can be when we do it ourselves. The official story. Albania expelled the last German soldiers on November 29th. The historical suspicion, it actually happened on November 28th. Why move Liberation Day? Because November 29th was also Yugoslavia's Liberation Day, and Albania's communists were buddy-buddy with Tito at the time. It's like when your friend has a birthday and you move your party to match theirs, except your party is a communist revolution. What followed was not exactly a celebration of freedom. Enver Hoxha quickly turned Albania into a geopolitical hermit kingdom, cutting ties with Yugoslavia, the Soviet Union, and eventually China, leaving Albania with no allies except goats, many goats. To this day, November 29th is political dynamite in Albania. The left celebrates it. The right says, absolutely not. That's when the dictatorship started. It's the Balkan version of arguing whether pineapple belongs on pizza, except with more partisans. Segment 6, Byrd flies over the South Pole. Aviation meets hypothermia. 1929. On November 29, 1929, Richard E. Byrd decided the South Pole looked lonely and flew over it, becoming the first human to see the bottom of the world from above. Because nothing says American explorer like climbing into a metal box and pointing it at a frozen hellscape. Byrd and his team took off in a Ford Trimotor. Yes, the same company that makes pickup trucks, and immediately faced the biggest Antarctic obstacle, the Trans-Antarctic Mountains. To get over the pass, the plane needed more lift. To get more lift, they needed less weight. So they made the coldest, most depressing choice ever. They dumped their survival rations out the door. Imagine watching your emergency food supply vanish into a 50 below zero void and thinking, well, this won't come back to haunt us at all. But it worked. They cleared the hump, reached the pole, took photos, and lived to tell the tale. A stark contrast to Byrd's earlier North Pole claim, which historians now treat like that friend who swears he ran a marathon but somehow finished in 45 minutes. Still, the South Pole flight is legit. Byrd became a hero. Americans celebrated. Penguins shrugged. Segment 7, Enos the Chimp, the space pioneer who deserved a medal and a union. 1961. Now let's talk chimps, because November 29th, 1961 features one of the most hardcore, underappreciated spacefarers in history. Enos, the chimpanzee NASA yeeted into orbit aboard Mercury Atlas V. Enos wasn't just along for the ride. He had jobs to do, turning levers, responding to lights, avoiding electric shocks, and performing tasks that would have gotten a human astronaut hazard pay. Then, the equipment malfunctioned. It shocked him even when he did everything right. NASA basically invented cosmic gaslighting. And Enos, he kept working anyway. He was like, I hate every second of this, but I'm a professional. His capsule spun, it rolled, the thrusters misfired. NASA aborted after 2 orbits. And when the ship was recovered, Enos climbed out looking unamused, underpaid, and absolutely done with humanity. But his endurance proved astronauts could manually control capsules in space, which ended up saving John Glenn's life 3 months later. Enos was a hero. He just didn't get a parade, or a sitcom, or even a banana bonus. Instead, he got a footnote in history until today. Segment 8, Pong, when 2 pixels changed planet Earth, 1972. November 29th, 1972, the day Atari dropped Pong and unknowingly launched the multi-billion-dollar gaming industry. Yes, a bouncing square and 2 rectangles changed human culture more than half the world's monarchies. The prototype in Sunnyvale's Andy Capp's Tavern took in so many quarters it jammed itself shut. The coin box literally overflowed. Imagine a machine that is so successful it commits money-based suicide. Pong wasn't complicated. It wasn't philosophical. It wasn't designed to revolutionize anything. It was created because Nolan Bushnell wanted a new engineer to practice on something simple. And that simple thing became the iPhone ancestor, the Minecraft grandfather, the reason millions of people today lose to 12-year-olds online who call them names. November 29th, the day your thumbs got a destiny. Segment 9, FC Barcelona, the Beatles, and a Hollywood mystery. 1999, 1963, 1981. This segment is the tapas platter of November 29th. FC Barcelona, 1899, founded by a Swiss guy named Hans Gamper and 11 friends. Today, it's a global mega club, symbol of Catalan identity and home to more drama than a Real Housewives reunion. Més que un club, indeed. It's a political statement with shin guards. The Beatles drop I Want to Hold Your Hand, 1963. Over 1 million advance orders. This was the musical version of a tidal wave slapping America in the face and saying, "You're British now." Capitol Records finally gave in, and suddenly, Beatlemania becomes the world's most contagious non-viral outbreak. Natalie Wood, 1981. The mysterious drowning, a yacht, a fight, a foggy timeline, a changed cause of death. Hollywood whispers, the police reopening the case decades later. Christopher Walken saying very little and making it somehow creepier. A true American mystery, equal parts tragedy and tabloid. In conclusion, November 29th is one of those rare calendar days where history looks at the clock, slams a double espresso, and says, let's make 10 different documentaries at once. And it does. Whether it's UN delegates drawing borders like they're sketching on napkins, or Colorado cavalry officers redefining the word atrocity, or insurance companies discovering that, yes, human beings can indeed be victims of corporate math, November 29th is a highlight reel of both the best and worst of us.